people.
Welcome to Growing Up Low Country.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Liz.
And man, it's been a minute, but we're back.
Yes,
and
good to see you.
I'm looking forward to this one. There's a lot of things to cover. So first and foremost, if this is your first time watching or listening to the podcast, the first order of operations is we share what highlights we had of our time in between podcasts. So Liz, what fun things did you engage in this summer since we had this semi-extended break?
Yeah, well, my son got his driver's license.
No kidding.
Yes.
Congratulations.
An official driver. So that's been big news in our family, and been doing a good bit of fishing. Got a bunch of flounder, been on the redfish, some trout, and just kayaking, piddling around. Went out to the beach for a little bit over the 4th of July. Saw some fireworks.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, I went to. I didn't really go anywhere that special, but some members of the family went up to Pittsburgh, one of your favorite stomping grounds, last weekend. But yeah, just making it in this heat, but it hasn't been too terrible.
Yeah, you're right. It hasn't. And also, I see last week y'all took a little vacation out to Folly Beach.
Yeah, we went and stayed for the week, and I'll tell you, it was awesome. But the storm that was coming in had a lot of undertow. Ooh, man. We got out in it, and it was a lot of fun. The waves were amazing if you're good at surfing and boogie boarding, which is more my speed. But yeah, that thing, they talk about it, but until you experience it, that's Mother Nature at her finest. She can just flick you like a little ant if she wants to.
Yeah. And then also, since we last did an episode, you and Callum took a little excursion up to the Twin Cities. So talk about that.
Yeah, talked about that. So we went up planning to hopefully catch an NBA Finals game, but you know how that turned out. And we weren't able to see the Timberwolves, but we did run into the players for the Chinese national team, the women's soccer team, and they were so nice and so excited to be in Minneapolis. And so we ended up getting tickets to this women's soccer match against the U.S. And I know enough about soccer that I'm like, man, this might drag on. But it was so exciting, and just every single second something great's happening, and you know, just a good cultural experience. And we besides the soccer stuff, we went and checked out a jazz club that Prince used to frequent. He would sneak in the back, and if he liked the act, he'd kind of like make their lives. You know, that was pretty cool. Did a lot of thrift store poking around, and it's a neat city, man. I'd highly recommend. And there's direct flights there now for like $50.
Really?
Yeah. They've got a Sun
Country.
Sun Country.
Okay.
Yeah. It started in the Twin Cities, so that's why they fly direct there.
Okay.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah, I didn't know Sun Country flew out of Charleston.
Well, yeah, but their hub is Minneapolis.
Okay. Right on. So I'll definitely have to take that in consideration. And I 100% agree about Minneapolis. It's a beautiful city. I've been there one time. It was actually, my flight got delayed. I was supposed to be flying back into Charlotte. I was flying from Kansas City one Sunday, and Minneapolis was my connecting flight. And they had inclement weather. So by the time I landed in Minneapolis, they canceled all the flights for the rest of the night. And my flight didn't leave until like later that following evening. So I was stuck for like 27 hours in Minneapolis. So while I was there, I was like, you know what, let me take the light rail and just mosey my way around the city. And Minneapolis is really cool. I highly recommend it in the warmer months for sure. And then getting to experience Mall of America.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. That was sensory overload right there. I mean, having a roller coaster inside of a mall, I just couldn't wrap my mind around that. But yeah.
And the mall is legit. Like, they have it's like what malls used to be.
Yeah. I
like
completely agree. Yeah. So for me, in the interim, myself and my sister both celebrated birthdays in June.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Her birthday is on June 17th and mine is on June 18th. So we're a day apart. And that was a lot of fun. My parents treated me to Waffle House that morning. And then just like you, I went to Folly and just hung out there the whole day. And just a real chill, real relaxing birthday. I do have to say, though, I highly recommend, and this is something that I realized that is super underrated, is taking off days in the middle of the week.
That's the only time you can get out to Folly without sitting in traffic for 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I was in and out like at the drop of a hat. It was cool just getting to Folly with no traffic whatsoever. And then on top of that, speaking of NBA Finals, my beloved Oklahoma City Thunder completed the mission. And shout out to them. They had me on pins and needles all 7 games of that series. I was sweating like crazy.
It was a great series.
It really was.
Some good basketball.
We had a group chat, me and a couple of other friends, prior to the series starting, and we all gave our predictions, and we all said Thunder in 5. I'm so glad the series is over. I'm so sick of the Pacers. They're so pesky, and it was bothering me. I'm like, man, why can't this just be a cakewalk? And
I think the Pacers are the best conditioned team in the
easily.
NBA. They're very fit. Yeah. I mean, if you're in the NBA, you're probably fit, but I'm just saying they had that stamina.
Yeah, I completely agree. And man, Game 7, that whole Sunday, I was just nervous. Like my heart was just beating out of my chest. And I didn't catch the first half, but I was just looking down my timeline on social media, and everybody's talking about Halliburton's starting off with a hot hand. He hit like 3 straight threes. And then I stopped at the gas station. Then when I got back in my car, I took one last look at the phone, and then the whole timeline is like, oh, no, Halliburton. Oh, no, Halliburton. I was like, did my worst fear get confirmed? Because they said he was playing with a calf strain, and playing with a calf strain, natural progression is an Achilles tear. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, that's what happened to him. And I was like, oh, man. But
did you see the replay when they slowed it down?
Yeah.
Don't do that to yourself.
Mm-mm. And then once he was removed from the game, I was like, well, OKC, here's your chance. And it was still tight in the first half. And then they got a comfortable lead in the second half. And then the Pacers did what the Pacers do. It was 94-79 at one point. And then I blinked my eyes one time. I got home to catch the second half, and the Pacers going an 11-1 run. I'm like, here we go again. But they were able to stave off the Pacers' charge, and they ended up winning the series. It was crazy because my phone was just blowing up with congratulations. And it was really cool getting one from my mom. My mom's really not into sports at all like that. But she was like,
she knows it means something to you.
Yeah, she was like, your boys did it. She was like, me and your dad watched the whole fourth quarter. I was like, man, look at that. That's all right. And then also, to make things better, the last Charleston River Dogs game I went to, I had a childhood dream just that got fulfilled. I met Bill Walsh.
What?
In person.
You know, every weatherman and sports anchor, local celebrity. I think that's your whole bingo card, right?
Pretty much. I got Dean Stevens and Bill Walsh. And I didn't even know he was going to be at the game. I was in line at the concession stand, and I heard a familiar voice to my left, and he was doing a remote from the concourse while Channel 5 was on. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's Bill Walsh. Let me get out of the shot. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to just stay around. I'm going to just hover for a little bit and wait for them to wrap up recording. And then I'm just going to approach him and ask if I can get a picture. And he couldn't have been nicer.
Oh, good.
And I got a picture with him. And I was like, man, 6-year-old me is just like, yes. Man.
Day made.
Indeed. I mean, this goes back to when he had dark hair. And now, like, his hair is like cotton white now. It's amazing seeing the evolution of Bill Walsh. But now we're going to get into some topics. So the first topic that we're going to cover is the teacher spotlight. So, Liz, who is your teacher spotlight?
I'm going to go with second grade, Mrs. Mike Lewis. And she had a system where you got a ticket if you were bad. Like, she had these cars, and she would stick a ticket in your car if you messed up. But if you stayed ticket free all month, maybe, then she would personally take you to go get ice cream in her car. Like, you got to ride with her to go get ice cream at the Delta Pharmacy.
Really?
And then, yeah, it was a big deal. And so, man, you know, I stayed ticket free. I'm getting that ice cream. And yeah, we had a great group in there. And I loved that her first name was Mike. And I thought, man, if this lady's name is Mike, anything's possible.
Right.
Anything can happen. And she was a lot of fun.
Man, I forgot about Delta Pharmacy serving ice cream. Mm-hmm. This is when it was in the old location where Brex used to be, mm-hmm. and I used to go there with my papa, and we used to get root beer floats there all the time. Yes. God, it was so good.
Did they use the Barks root beer?
Yes.
That's the ticket right there.
Yes. And for my teacher spotlight, I'm also going to go elementary school. This one is my first grade teacher, who's Miss Dupriest. And she was one of my favorite teachers because, number one, she saw that I could read very well at an early age. So what she would do is every now and then, whenever we would come back from recess, she would allow me to read to the kids in the class. Oh. And I really enjoyed that. I would get my Charlie Brown books and I would read to the class, and I would try to mimic her method, because what she would do is, like, normally when she gets to the last lines on the page, she'll remember the lines and say those last two lines, and then she'll flip the book around and show the illustrations to the class. So I picked up on that, and I was like, man, this is really cool. Like, I'm 6 years old reading to other 6-year-olds, man. And she also drove my favorite car at the time. She had a cherry red Nissan 300ZX.
Oh, man.
That thing was sweet. And
what were they paying those Whitesville teachers?
I don't know, man. I mean, that thing was immaculate, man. But the thing that I remember the most about that class is the first major news story I remember was the Space Shuttle Challenger explosion, and we watched that live in class. And I remember leading up to the launch, she was talking about Ronald McNair and how important he was. Number one being, if I'm not mistaken, he was the first black male astronaut, but also the fact that he was from South Carolina. He was from Lake City, South Carolina, which is about an hour and 15, hour 20 from Moncks Corner. And so we're watching this space shuttle take off. We're all looking, and it was like, wow, that's neat. Like, this thing's going to go into space, and then boom, and it just exploded. And being 6 years old, you don't fully understand the gravity of the situation. We just like, why is it not continuing to go into space? And everybody's looking up at the screen. And I remember turning around looking at Miss Dupriest, and she just had her hand covered over her mouth, and she was like, oh my God. And then you just start to see tears running down her face.
Because they had like teachers on that flight that were supposed to go up and like communicate with their students.
Yeah.
I recall. Because I remember that too. And I remember everybody crying a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, Miss Dupriest, that's my teacher spotlight for this episode. And another topic that I wanted to cover, honoring / shedding light on our classmates who are no longer with us, and just sharing some of our favorite memories with some of these classmates, just giving them their proper respect and their just due. So actually, I'll go first. The first person I want to talk about is Josh Swycord. And man, we were really cool in 8th grade. We sat next to each other in homeroom, and we sat next to each other at lunch. And statute of limitations is up now, but his mom used to always make him a bag lunch. But he would always hand the sandwich to me. Like, I already had a tray full of food, and he was like, here, take this. I don't want it. And it would always be like a turkey or a ham sandwich with mustard. And sometimes she would put tomatoes on it. Sometimes she wouldn't. But she made some really good sandwiches. And he was just like, man, I eat these all the time. This is the last thing I want to eat when I'm at lunch. But he would eat everything else out of the brown bag. And man, Josh Swycord was the biggest Michael Jordan fan I knew. Like, he was always just dressed to the nines in Jordan gear and always had the freshest Jordan shoes. And if you ever talk bad about Jordan or the Bulls, he was ready to fight. Like, his face would get as red as a brake. Like, he'd be like, you shut up. And I'd seen him draw his fist back a couple of times. I'm like, boy, he is really passionate about Michael Jordan. I respect it. But yeah, those are some of my biggest memories from being friends with Josh Swycord. So do you have any takeaways or have any things to say about Josh?
Josh and I grew up together since we were babies. And same church, same, we did a lot together. And Yeah, all of our MYF outings and big time trips, like church trips, would go for weeks at a time, just hanging out.
What's NYF?
MYF was Methodist Youth Fellowship.
Okay.
Yeah, so camps and all that stuff. So he was my buddy from way back, and I think about him a lot and always think about what he'd be doing these days. But yeah, he loved Jordans. He loved Legos. He was so good at Legos. And
I didn't know that.
He would have like it was all real organized, and the same with his Jordans, super organized, like still in the original box by, like had it very pristine. And but yeah, and he had some really fun times and then some really hard times, but he made our class stronger because we were all rooting for him so hard.
We really were. I remember when we had our high school graduation and he walked the stage. I was like, man, look at that, man. I hadn't seen him and it had been years since the last time I seen him, because I don't think he was actually in school like at the time. And then hearing them say his name, and I was like, he's here. And then seeing him walk across the stage and get his diploma, I was like, wow, that's Josh, man. That's awesome. So the second name that I'm going to bring up, and this is somebody that's near and dear to both of us, is Hamilton Martin. Yeah. Man, so what are your memories of Hamilton?
Again, went to church together, NYF. We were together. We had dinner together every Wednesday night of our whole lives.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because we would go to church, and I remember my dad he'd walk in. I mean, this was starting in like 6th grade. He would walk in and say, Hamilton, can't believe what you got into this week. And he'd say, man, who told you? And like, Dad didn't know anything. He would just say that. And then Hamilton would say, man, I didn't do it. And then he would go and confess like whatever nonsense he had been up to that week. But he could make me laugh so hard. And, and Hamilton would roll up, and that was like a red Pinto.
Yep.
And he'd say, let's go to the movies. And neither one of us would have any money. So we would start going in couch cushions. We'd rustle up maybe $2 to go to the dollar movie. Yeah. And but we had big times. And even in my later years, when I lived on James Island, I wouldn't see Hamilton for months, and then he'd show up and crash on the couch for a couple nights.
No kidding.
Yeah, and we'd catch up then. Yeah, and his family's down in Florida now. I always loved his family a lot too.
Yeah. Some of my biggest memories of Hamilton was we sat next to each other in English class. I got to credit him for really sharpening my writing skills, because every once in a while we would write essays and then we would do peer reviews and we would swap papers. And then when he handed it back to me, it was just full of red ink. But I didn't get mad because sometimes, well, because they were good. Not only were they good suggestions, but it felt like he backed up his criticism, because every now and then we would have to read our essays aloud. And whenever it was time for him to read his essays, I'm like, that man really has a way with words, man. I was like, you know what? I'm going to heed his advice. He really sharpened my skills as far as writing goes. And I'll never forget him for that. And I also remember Hamilton for being the biggest Philadelphia 76ers fan I know. Oh my God. He loved Allen Iverson. And even in our later years, when we would talk, a good portion of the subject matter would be about the NBA. And, when OKC wasn't doing good, he would talk trash. And then when Philly was stinking it up, I'd talk trash to him. And it was just a really cool bond. And speaking of cars, I don't know if it was the Pinto or if it was another car he was driving. He had like a little paper license plate on the front that just said, I'm cooler than you. I'm like, that's Hamilton all day right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, shout out to Hamilton, man. And then we actually went to his memorial service, and I thought that was a really touching send-off. And then just hearing people get up, like J.B. LaCroix was there. I hadn't seen or heard his name since high school, and it was just, man, it was like a walk down memory lane being at the memorial. So, Hamilton, you are missed and you are loved. And thank you for just existing. Thank you for being on this earth and sharing air and space with us. And there's some other stags in my brain that are no longer with us. Jelita Copeland, who actually we had an episode named after her. It was Jelita's mozzarella sticks.
Yes. Can we please also, and also there was so much more to Jelita, obviously. I mean, she was just such, like, you always knew where you stood with Jelita. Like, she was not going to sugarcoat it.
She didn't mince words at all.
But funny and sincere and just a really kind and likable person that the whole world could have done good to have her around a lot longer. That's for sure. I
agree. Could not agree more. Then Ernest Barnett and Jeremy Rose and Jesse Jernigan and Nick Becker. And are there any other ones that you can think of?
Nick Altman.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Melinda Leggett. I think she was our class.
She was in our class. Yeah, I didn't know that either.
But a lot gone too soon.
Yeah. And rest in peace to them, and we honor your memories. And the ones that we did not name, that we may not have remembered, please blame our minds and not our hearts. Rest in peace to all of you. We honor you. And now we're going to get into another portion of the program that we just newly introduced on the last episode called Stags in the Wild. And this one, if this is your first time tuning in, we basically talk about fellow stags that we ran into out in public that we saw in between recordings. So, Liz, what are your submissions?
I saw Sarah Bonge at Folly Beach, and she helped save my life because I did get caught up in a rip tide.
Talk about that.
Oh my gosh. Well, there was that storm coming in, and so the water was really rough, and we had a bunch of kids out there, and luckily the kids were a little farther in. But if you've ever been to Folly, there's like a drop off, and once you hit that, like, you cannot touch at all. And I was boogie boarding, and I was doing great, but then I got out a little too far, and that I'd be swimming so hard, and take 2 strokes in and be pulled back 5 feet. And that is a really terrifying feeling. And you realize how, it's very treacherous out there in that ocean. Yeah. And I called for Sarah to help get the girls in. And she actually she was going to save my life.
That's a friend right there.
I'm telling you, that was a good friend. And so, yeah, that was a great stag sighting. I also saw Brian Kadama.
Justin's brother?
Justin's little brother.
Okay.
Last night at pickleball in Park Circle. And you get out a lot more than I do. So if you're not playing pickleball in Park Circle, I'm probably not going to see you. But I did have, and I know this is inconsistent with the theme, sort of, but I saw a real stag. Like, I threw the cast net the other day in the creek, and not even 8 feet in front of me, a huge 10-point buck jumps up out of the marsh grass and just stared me right in the face.
Wow.
Full velvet. It was the most symmetrical, beautiful buck I've ever seen. And it was just like, it just takes your breath away. But I was like, dang, no one's ever going to believe this. It's like, I'm just frozen. And I didn't want to move because I didn't want him to move. And then he just turned and walked away.
That's crazy. I got nothing to top that. You saw a literal stag in the wild. I'm like, you know what? My list isn't even worth talking about now. You know what, Sarah Bonge? We got to get you on the podcast. That's so right. This is your formal invitation if you're tuned in. So, stags in the wild that I saw. This one it's quite the list. I'm gonna go in order of most recent. So, this past Saturday, I went to the Coastal Carolina Flea Market in Ladson for the first time in about 30 years. And strangely enough, I run into James Bryant and Effie Gibbs.
What?
At the flea market. Yes, of all places. I was walking one way and they were crossing, going in the other direction.
James they had those really cute kids with them.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Gosh, I'm so jealous.
They did. And he was like, "Oh, dang, Bubba, what's up, man?" He was like, "Man, I tune into you and Liz's podcast every now and then. Keep it up, man. Y'all are doing a good thing." So shout out to you, Bubba, and shout out to you, Effie. I hadn't seen either one of them since high school. And then last week at the gym, he's not a stag per se, but our middle school principal, Mr. Burnett, I saw him at the gym.
Really?
Yeah, he looks exactly the same.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then downtown, normally on Sunday afternoons or Sunday evenings, I like to just go downtown and just walk. And I was on Calhoun Street at the light, waiting for the crosswalk light to change. And I heard somebody yell my name off in the distance. And I turned to my right, and it was Nick Brown. He was in his patrol car at the light. I was like, wow. He was like, man, I see you, man. You're doing your thing, man. Shout out, man. So shout out to Nick Brown. And then the Charleston Battery game, I've been in quite a few of those this year. And, of course, Casey Abden and Brianna, they work behind the bar at the Charleston Battery games. And also that same day, the River Dogs had a doubleheader. So they had an early game. And I also ran into two fellow Stags. First person I ran into was Jeremy Curtis. Saw him in the game. I didn't recognize him for a second because he had on shades and he had this big burly gray beard, and he's like, Fox Nuts, what's up, man? And I was like, okay, so I went to Berkeley with you clearly, and then he took his shades off. I was like, Jeremy Curtis, man, what a pleasant surprise. So Jeremy Curtis, shout out to you. It was great running into you. And then around the fifth inning, I'm on the concourse going to make my snack run, and I run into Brandy Winningham. Well, Brandy Key, she's Brandy Kiefer now, but I got to see her, and I got to meet her husband. And last time I saw her was at our class reunion. So that was good to see. And then I ran into Dwayne Rogers at Country Corner.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I left work normally about 2:00. I go, snack breaks have really become a recurring theme on this episode. But yeah, 2 p.m. I leave work. I go to Country Corner to get my snacks and head back. And sure enough, I'm walking in. He's walking out. I was like, man, good to see you. Good to see you too. Mm-hmm. And then the last person, I saw Chris Dixon at Walmart.
Stop. Well, yeah. I need to add a Stag to the wild because his sister is my insurance agent.
Go ahead.
And with Callum getting this license, I had to talk to her. Yeah,
she's my agent too. Shout out to Danielle Dixon Thomas.
And the Dixon Family Agency.
Yes.
Go all state.
Yes.
It is. Oh, y'all just keep not running into people, please. let's do better as a society.
Yes,
not hit each other.
Yes. So, Liz, what did you learn on this episode?
I learned that you have the freedom to leave your job at 2:00 and just be like, "Hey, I'm out. I'm going to go all the way to the Country Corner."
Yeah.
I need it. I'm like that.
But I mean, my job is literally right across the street from Country Corner, so I can get away with that.
All right. What else? I love that you saw James and Effie. I learned that, and also I'm jealous of it.
And I learned about your teacher, her method of marking bad behavior via ticket, and then the fact that she would take you to get ice cream if you had a clean rap sheet. That is,
I know,
that's all right.
Obviously, she took if I were her, I'd be like, you slipped up. I'm gonna put a ticket, so that I wouldn't have to take anybody to get ice cream. Which is probably why I'm not a teacher. That's terrible. But she took a lot of kids every time we went.
Yeah, and I tried my hand at wanting to be a teacher when I was at College of Charleston. I was like, yeah, this ain't for me at all. But yeah, you and Hamilton, how y'all's relationship started, meeting at the Methodist Church. Well, you and Josh Whitecourt, how y'all's friendships really blossomed and were cultivated at the Methodist Church. So that was cool to learn about. And last but not least, we got to give a big shout out to Kenyon Doyle, who recently announced that he's being inducted into the Citadel Athletics Hall of Fame. And the induction ceremony is going to be the weekend of October 10th. Kenyon, I will be in attendance. So shout out to you. I will see you soon. And we got to get you on the podcast too.
He's the fastest man in South Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, he's got the gold medals to prove it. I mean, state champion in the 100 and 200, and I think he was silver in the 400. I still need to. You still need to run me my fade. You know what? Maybe not. We're a little too old to be running now. We got to sign a waiver before we. We got
space for a foot race out front. We can get this happening.
Speaking of what, go to Danielle, see if I can take out some kind of insurance before I run. So, hey, full circle. Gotta love it. So, Liz, any final thoughts?
Well, I'm looking forward to next time. Hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Yes, and this was a lot of fun. They say absence really makes the heart grow fonder. I spent this whole day today at work just thinking, man, I get to chop it up with Liz again, man. It's always a gas to just being able to hang out with her and just like talk shop for every month. So this is it does my heart good.
I look forward to it every month too.
Yeah. So thank y'all for listening. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find it at Danny Foxworth 843. You can find all of the videos for every episode of this podcast, as well as my baseball podcast, At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. Since we last spoke with Danny Foxworth, and my Candle podcast, A Wicked Good Time with Danny Foxworth. And also, I got to give a big special shout out to Craig Tenio. I didn't realize I wasn't following him. And then when I posted the clip of him getting the best of me in Miss Willis's class, and I think Jonathan Irby tagged him, and then he just got a good kick out of it. And then all of a sudden, everybody got a kick out of it. And I was like, you know what? That's all right, man. And we ended up being Facebook friends. So, man, again, Craig Tenio, shout out to you. Keep doing what you're doing, man. And for Liz and myself, this has been another episode of Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny. And until next time, y'all be good. Talk to y'all later.